I was ready to come out by the time I was 18, and I told a close friend of mine, and she just was like, it's just not a drama to anyone else, is it? Like, you're having a really, really sort of churned up time about it. And she just was like, yeah, I know.
Hello, I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. Doug Crossley is an award-winning writer and artist based in the UK. He moved to London in the early noughties to study musical theatre at the infamous BRIT school, and came with a set of youthful, some might say naive, preconceptions about the big city and how his life would be here. We got up to talk about Popstarz, the legendary weekly indie rock night that started in the 90s. Along the way, we discuss teenage insecurities, showing up to work with a stonking hangover, and Doug tells me all about the one that got away.
That they were very happy days. There's lots that I loved and lots that I remember nostalgically, but it's not a pure nostalgia. There was a lot of torment in there as well.
Because of like interpersonal relationships, or because of your own headspace at that time?
A combination of probably not having made my own peace with my own demons, but then, and I guess then as a consequence, being drawn to people that carried toxicity and drama and risk and things that I look back and think that I didn't really go around finding, apart from my friends. I always picked good friends. I didn't really go around finding loving partners that were kind to me. That wasn't really my bag.
But I always find this really like hard to pinpoint, because like maybe if you were heterosexual, you would still be like seeking out those kinds of people, and it's not because of like an internalized homophobia or a shame or something like that.
No, but I think it's and it's to do with mental health as well. Like, it's not just that. It's like what of my psychological issues have been to do with being gay in this world, and what are just to do with the genetic heritage I come from, which is rife with stuff. And my brothers, I'm one of three brothers, and they definitely haven't been free of the issues that I've had just because they're heterosexual.
Yeah.
So it's a good conversation. Some of it definitely was, though, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like obviously it will have been a contributing factor in some way, but it's just so hard to like attribute it. I think like for me, yeah, there was like definitely in my life a chasing of people that I knew like weren't particularly interested in me, and getting myself into weird situations. But like, I don't know if that's just because I'm a creative who wants drama and wants a story.
Yeah, it's a good question. I do feel like it would have been nice to have older queens who maybe were a bit more settled in their selves to sort of, I don't know, somehow guide. I always felt like I was sort of longing for a bit of that, but I didn't have a very good father figure either. So I feel like there was maybe that. It would have been nice to have people just kind of go, hey, why are you drawn to those kind of people?
I've
What's
noticed
that
you're
about?
really into assholes. What's going on there?
You seem to really go after men that are. And also, oh God, I look back and it's just like really stereotypically attractive people as well. I think that was a real hang up. It's like, because I felt shit and ugly. I was just drawn to people that looked traditionally attractive, whatever the hell that means, I think.
And they showed like enough interest in you back that seemed like worthwhile.
Yeah, because there was probably enough avoidance on their part that they were never really going to meet me in my reality. So therefore I could sort of live in the longing and the chasing and the drama of that, rather than have somebody turn and face me and look me bolt in the eye and say, yes, I'd like to have intimacy with you. Because if I'd ever found somebody like that, I'd have ran a mile.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who says intimacy?
Don't know.
Well, I mean, that's like the whole other thing, right? Like, as soon as someone's like, hey, I'm kind of interested in you, I'm like, oh.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, like, you must not be paying attention.
I do. It's like an immediate hostility, isn't it? When somebody shows an interest, it's like, whoa, stand at the door and I'll take a good look. What's wrong with you? But I'm trying to get better at that now. Now I'm old.
Ah, so then is there anything proactive then that you do to address those thoughts?
I've been in therapy for at least 100 years now.
Okay.
So yeah.
But do you have like any specific tips for me?
In terms of relationship building.
Yeah, and in terms of like not balking and running as soon as someone shows a whiff of interest.
Pace, I think, is just go 100 miles slower than you think you need to go. That would be, if we were going to get into like agony aunt territory, that's the thing that I feel like the best relationships I've had are the ones that have gone really slowly. And the ones, I hate to say it because it sounds, and I don't know how committed I want to be to this, but the ones where sex is a thing that is negotiated, not immediately. But that's rare. That's rare in our community. Because I also think there's a position's the wrong word. There's a place for sex first. I think that's one of the things I quite like about our community, is that we are a bit like, is there a chemistry there? But I think it has its issues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's what I was going to say. Like, I think you do need to figure that out quite quickly.
You do need to know, I think, yeah. But I find that when I've built that intimacy with people, there's almost always great chemistry because you're in a kind of conversation the whole time.
Yeah. I guess it just all depends on the chemistry with that specific person. Like, I can think of times when I've had sex immediately with someone and then things have progressed naturally and there's been a relationship born out of it. And then other times when I've waited and we've kind of taken our time to get there.
There's also those ones, aren't there, that are so sexually attractive to you that actually once that initial spark has dwindled a little bit, you're like, oh, you're not that interesting. I've had that experience.
Oh, it's awful. Like when you finally found yourself a fuck buddy and they're like, oh, we should go on a date. And you're like, yeah, all right. And then it's just ruined forever because you're like, oh, I didn't need to know that much about you. And now that I do, I can never look at you the same way again.
No, because it's ruined the thing that was working casually.
Yeah.
But it's not going to last. So it's like, oh, double fucked. Double fucked.
And I have to pay for dinner now. It's like, damn it. Okay, so shall we go to Popstarz?
Let's go to Popstarz.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, what age were you when you started going there?
I was somewhere between 21 and 24.
Okay.
I think that was the period I was there. So from those years.
And so, like, had you finished school by this stage?
Yeah, I'd moved back to central London, and I was very much trying to understand how that worked, and at the time, really, really trying to be the budding actor type thing. That was very much my identity.
So, like, picking up a copy of The Stage every week and going to auditions and
a version of that, really. Yeah, I was auditioning for things that I really laugh at some of the things I auditioned for. One of the auditions I have as a sort of trauma memory was the West End production of The Sound of Music. You know, the one that they were auditioning people on the TV to be in.
Oh.
This is How to Solve a
Who
Problem
won it?
like Maria.
Connie?
I want to say Connie, yeah, but I don't know her surname.
Well, so
Connie
I do
Peters?
know it. I don't know. She's kind of like clean looking.
She looked like Julie Andrews.
Except with brown hair. That was like the distinct difference, right?
I thought she had almost like the identical Julie Andrews haircut, but that probably is just the way I'm remembering her. We'll look back and somebody will say it wasn't Connie at all. Like it was Joanne. We'll both be like, oh. It was because I was singing a Rodgers and Hammerstein song, and they're very like that. very big musical theatre songs, and I got to the pinnacle moment of it and did one of these. I turned away from the microphone so as not to destroy everybody's ears. But that's a fun thing to do in front of a really prestigious casting director in the West End.
So did you get the job?
Didn't get the job, weirdly. No. Slipped away from me for reasons unknown.
But I mean, like, come on, like it's not that bad. I'm sure every actor has a horror story like that.
It is when you're a budding 21-year-old something who thinks they're the shit. That was humiliating to me. I don't care now. I find it enjoyable now.
But do you not like get into like a rhythm of like being cool with being rejected?
No. I never did, because I've since gone on to focus primarily on writing, and you're forever being rejected for one thing or another, and I've never got used to it.
I think I'm getting better as I get older. The one thing that okay, so what I'm about to say really conflicts with my core character, but the one thing I really wish that I had done when I was a child is like participated in team sports or sport of some kind, because I think that then you get like used to losing and you get okay with it.
And why didn't you?
Because
you were a little gay boy.
Yeah, because I was like a little fag who didn't want to like go in the change rooms. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not a very sporty person anyway, so it's not like where my interests naturally lie. But I kind of, I think I would have really benefited from that, because I just hated rejection so much in my 20s.
That is such an interesting. I've never made that connection before, because I also didn't do any kind of team sport, and it does. Yeah, that's an interesting thesis.
Yeah, because like you lose all the time.
You do. Whereas when I lost, I made everyone's life hell. Like if I was a board flipper, you know, like when you're playing board games, I was a board flipper. So if I was losing, that board was getting flipped, a flounce was being thrown, and I was stomping away. So I guess I didn't. I've never really learned. It's good. It's good, actually. It's really helpful to make that connection.
Yeah, and like, you know, the one bit of life advice that I would ever give anyone is to just go out there and be rejected hundreds of times, because, like, you know, once you get over that, you're just like, yeah, cool, whatever. I can just take it on.
Improv comedy was good for me in adult life for that, because you have to lose all the time in improv to be good at it.
Yeah, improv kind of gives me hives.
Well, you have to all try really hard at the same time, and then you all lose. If one of you loses, you all lose. So you're not alone in it either.
See, that's okay then, because you can always just blame someone else. Like, you can always just opt out of feeling like a loser.
Yeah.
Right. So, what were we saying? Popstarz.
We've gone such a tangent now. Popstarz, 21 to 24.
Ah, 21, and you were going to auditions. Right, okay, we're back on track.
Yeah, that's it.
So, where were you living at this time?
I was living at that time I lived for a little bit in Shepherd's Bush, and then I lived in a house in King's Cross.
Okay, and you were living like the full homosexual fantasy.
full homo in the city. Yeah, because I didn't live with gay friends, but I lived with stagey friends, which is kind of the same thing. And I actually did have I'd like a group that I was on the scene with, and that was the role they served in my life. I'm not really friends with any of them anymore, but I don't hold any animosity towards any of them. It was very, very stereotypically gay scene group, because there was this group that I largely felt just an affinity towards, and then one of them that I loved undyingly and never loved me back. You know that one.
Did you tell him?
Yeah, because he and I went to drama school together, and I think I told him once then, I think we came close then, and then it never happened, and I think it was just this thing for me that I sort of pined.
Oh, just like held on to.
But I think looking back with age, I think that that was much more to do with my desire to be rejected than anything he was doing.
But,
I just wanted to feel like shit.
but have you ever like looked him up late at night on Facebook and pined for the life that you could have had with him?
No, I did see him at the funeral of the friend that was part of that scene, and it was just nice actually. I just was like, I fully understand why I went crazy over you, but I don't feel crazy over you anymore. It was just kind of nice. A funeral will do that for you, won't it? It'll
Resolved
strip away the
feelings?
shit.
That's not what I'm here for.
I still love him, but no, he just doesn't. He doesn't have the personality to keep up with me. Sorry, that's me. Sorry. He's really pretty, but
Should we
he's
tell
not
everyone
charismatic.
his name?
No.
Oh, come on,
He
will you
will
track him
know
down?
if he ever found this podcast. Full name and address.
So why Popstarz? Why did you want to talk about that night?
I just was drawn to Popstarz because there was a crop of men that would go there that were my cup of tea.
Ticking your boxes.
Yeah, they had when I would go, it slightly changed over the years. Did you go?
Yes.
Did you do Popstarz?
Yeah.
So it had those slightly indie boys there, if you recall. And I was quite into that at the time because I have a bit of a sort of penchant for a scally or a chav, and there was a lot of that vibe there. And I was definitely convinced in this window of my life when I was far more innocent than I am now that I would sort of find the Nietzsche of the football team and fall in love with him and live happily ever after.
Okay, so language evolves. We know this. Are we allowed to say scally and chav anymore?
I think they're a archetype. Is that allowed?
I don't know.
They are. It is a stereotype. It's really porny, I think. Looking on it now, that's where I think it's drawn from, isn't it? I want to say a kind of a fetish. It's like a fetishization of a certain type.
And should we explain what they are? I feel like there might be some people listening that haven't heard of them. So like a scally.
So
is like
people,
a
I get, or people that have a working class aesthetic. Because I'm from Stoke-on-Trent, so I was just looking back. Now I think that I was just looking for boys that looked like the boys when I was coming of age sexually. So they were slightly frightening looking. But yeah, tracksuits, Fred Perry.
So is this us finding out that you were attracted to the boys that bullied you as a child?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we wanted to go for a...
And we don't have nearly enough time to unpack that, do we?
No, but I think if I'm honest, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and is there a difference between a scally and a chav?
I always thought that scally was more northern UK, chav was southern UK, but I think I may have very well made that up.
No, I can get behind this because like a chav is more of an Essexy kind of vibe.
It's like an Essex vibe.
Yeah.
And scally, I think of northern and beyond.
And beyond.
I live in the Midlands, so yeah, like above London.
That's what you're counting as northern.
Geographically, when you pass Watford, it's north.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm with you. So you were just going to Popstarz to like basically gaze at men.
With this group that I was part of as well, it was about getting shit faced as well. This is why it was fun to think back about this time because I would go because I was working all sorts of jobs to afford my fabulous homosexual life in London, that I would go to work all week, come home on the Friday, work out, and then go out for the night and stay up all night and then go to work on the Saturday as well without having been to sleep. And I look back on that now and I think, is there any wonder I was like completely fatigued by the time I was 30? But that's the thing I used to do. I used to drink vodka Red Bull.
It's all worth it.
Good stories to tell.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
teach kids the following day. That's what's even funnier.
On a Saturday.
Yeah, because it was like performing arts school that I taught at.
Ah, okay. Oh.
So I would arrive like hanging on a pure adrenaline. And I reckon I was so much fun, actually. These kids are probably like, this guy's amazing.
Well, I feel like at theatre school, you can kind of lean into this eccentric drunk thing, right?
I like to hope that you couldn't smell the previous night on me.
They could smell.
They
Yeah, they
do you
go.
think? Yeah. Lots of teeth brushing and gum chewing.
And like frantically rocking back and forth so that you wouldn't fall asleep, right?
Yeah, I remember it being kind of clammy as well. Like that real like hangover clam. I remember that really sort of just like, oh, I'm clinging on for dear life here, and trying to inspire these kids. And I loved all the things I did at that time because I wasn't sort of old enough that people gave me jobs in life that were responsible. So I worked a lot with kids and I worked a lot with special needs kids. I did some really amazing work.
That's kind of responsible.
But I was never the lead. I was always in a supporting role.
Okay.
I wasn't the lead actress.
So like, do you remember the first time you ever went to Popstarz?
I just remember it being, that was probably at the beginning. They were the first group of like-minded friends that I had. That was a complete group. When I was at drama school, there was a couple of us and a couple of other people that we dragged along, but they were all gay men my age or thereabouts. And there was just this sense of camaraderie that I enjoyed, and I was always drunk, which is something I don't do very much anymore. But I was just very drunk.
So then, just like picking up on this group of friends thing,
Yeah.
we've talked about like the longing for romantic relationships, and so growing up as a queer kid and figuring out your identity. Was there also like a longing for friendship as well?
Yeah, I think there was. And when I knew I'd be talking about this with you, that I think it was a real shame because there was something that group met. But looking back, I think we were all all had demons, and it didn't feel like we made that much of an authentic, lasting connection. There was like a communality that we knew that we'd be there for one another's night out once or twice a week. But I don't feel like we were building something that could have lasted. It was like it was a time sensitive thing looking back. Though I wonder whether I had quite a lot of moments in that time where I would, I'd have these big nights out with friends and then quite sort of messy, darker moments in private. And I wonder, looking back, whether we were all kind of doing that and then not really talking to one another about it and not really communicating through that.
So you were just wearing like a particular facade with all of them and just being like,
I reckon
here to
so,
party,
yeah.
I'm here to have a good time.
Yeah, I'm fun. I'm here to bring it. We're all here together for this.
But having like that group of friends around you, was that something that you, like, for want of a better term, aspired to?
Yeah, I think I had a real patterning from queer as folk. Loads of us did, right? We all had it. Like I was really, I was like,
I want to sleep with underage people. Yay!
not that bit. But that was my sexual awakening, though, the Queer as Folk, the first British series, because that was like, I think it was right when I was maybe like 14, 15, and suddenly like, oh my God, there's these really loud queens on the TV, and it built this idea that I since think I just think it's a complete nonsense, that they were fucking freely and they were living for one another's drama and everything was wonderful and hunky-dory, and maybe there was a bit of a fantasy there that's what I should be doing as well.
But they weren't having an amazing time on that show.
But I was 15,
okay.
So they appeared to be. I haven't watched it as an adult.
It's never the same going back and watching it as an adult. That's why neither of us can watch the Sex and the City reboot.
I've been watching it.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, that joke fell flat.
I can give you a critique.
Have you been hate watching it?
I've been hate watching it a little bit. Yeah. I think I have.
Well, that's acceptable.
Because I just think it's a bit. I just think it lacks Kim Cattrall, even though I think she's a fascinating, difficult character. But I also just think it's very, very, very woke, to the detriment of some of its irreverence that it used to hold. It's a shame it can't be irreverently woke. It seems a bit careful, I think.
Okay. Well, let's move on. So you said before that you liked Popstarz more than any other club.
Yeah.
Was that just because of the men that were frequenting the place, or were there
I
other?
liked being able to hop genres. I feel like you could do that at Popstars, couldn't you? You could go like super pop, or you could go and like be cool in the indie room, and then I vaguely remember an R&B room or
Yeah,
something of
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
nature. Yeah, I quite like that. I do. We must talk about the one that got away as well. I feel like I should bring that in because he was. I can remember his name. I'll name him in case that's to be. His name was Yorgos.
Oh,
And he was my one that got away. And I never thought I'd have a one that got away, but he was my intermittent pop stars romance. So the thing that never became a relationship, but we hooked up on numerous occasions and then would not see each other and then run into each other again at Popstars.
and so you met him at Popstars.
Yes, I
Do
did.
you remember the first time that you met him?
I do remember because he was very, very German. And I'm sure he still is, in fact. But I mean, his accent was stridently German because he hadn't been in the UK for that long, and he was ridiculously charismatic, and a bit sort of, like if I'm there as framing myself as a vaguely self-hating queer looking for these men who are ultimately going to be unkind to me, he was the opposite of that. He was like a slightly geeky, blonde, effervescently handsome, really intelligent guy that just wanted to hang out with me.
Effervescently
obviously-
handsome. Ooh.
That's lovely, isn't it?
I think
Don't you
I
hope to be
fancy him.
described like that. Yeah, he was great, and he because I remember it because I've been thinking all these things since I knew that we would be talking, and I remember him texting me one time, and it just said, "Babe, why you so complicate?" And I think it's such a good summary for that chapter of my life. Because I look back on him and I think, bless him, he was really like materially successful as well. And I remember going back with him because I hadn't really done much of that. But I remember the first time I went back to his place that he was like, because I knew that I was teaching the kids the following day. So I was like, where the fuck are we going? Nobody knew that I'd gone home with him. It was all a bit sort of fraught with drama. And he said, you're going to really enjoy when you get to my place. And I was like, you're not like a psycho or anything like that. And then because we got to his place and it was like like when there's somebody on the door. And then he took me up to this flat and then he pressed a button and it opened these curtains and he was looking over to what was then called the Millennium Dome, like the O2. It was like this ritzy von Ritz thing. And he was a Swiss banker, which my mum made a joke of because she's a Cockney and the Swiss banker is a rhyming slang for something else. I said, Mom, I'm dating a guy, he's a Swiss banker. And she went, there's a joke in that. So I remember all these things of that time. But yeah, he just wanted to date me, just wanted to hang out with me. And I was far too stuck up my own arse to let that happen. I know.
Okay. So you didn't quite answer my question about the first time that you
Okay.
met.
First time I met him, what was the question?
Just tell me about it.
I think it was at the bar. I vaguely remember being, that conversation where you're jostling for the front of the queue. Somebody turns around with like drinks in hand, and then you're like, "Oh, you're quite attractive. Let's have a bit of a banter here." I think it was one of those. But I can't.
I can't. I'm just far too busy paying attention to my position in the queue to figure out.
Oh, so the bar was one of my main flirt zones. I remember that being like because I was way too shy to ever go and approach anybody. But if they stumbled upon me face to face, then I was like, oh, I could get on board with this. I can bring my best flirt game now.
No, see, I'm like just in full on concentration mode. And
You're just like
get out of my way.
You're
just
all
stand in
objects to me. I have one function. Get the fuck out of my way.
Pretty much. So you turn around. He was standing there with some drinks in his hands, and you were just like, "Hey."
Yeah, I think it was that kind of thing. I think because once I got going as well, because when I was drunk, I was super charming. And I think to that time, I look back and I bet he was just like this guy. I think he thought I was a bit ridiculous because I was kind of endlessly charming. Because once I got to know him, I thought that he was beautiful. And I would keep telling him things like that. And he just was like, you're crazy. He would say things like that.
So talk me through this then. So you've introduced yourself. Do you then go somewhere else in the club?
No, so I have a feeling that we went... This is all piecing together 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago.
You can
now,
get creative with the truth. It's fine.
I'll make it up. I have a feeling that we had this exchange and then we departed and then we bumped into... Because I remember this exchange with him being really lovely. Like, I remember... I might be piecing together a different time now, but I walked past him at one point and he, like, shoved me. But not in an aggressive way.
Oh, it's just so romantic.
I remember it being so nice when he kicked me in the head. No, he pushed me and it really made me jump. And I was reactive at the time. I was not somebody who took to being shoved very peacefully. And I remember turning around and him being there. And it was that kind of thing. I was rubbish, actually. I look back and I think he deserved better.
Oh, don't say that.
To say, isn't it? No, he did not now. I'm lovely now, but he deserved better than the way I was then.
And so was it just one of these situations where you would run into each other every week and the romance would slowly build?
Yeah, there was never because he was working. He would come back and forth from Switzerland. I think he was working at the time, so he wasn't always there. So it was one of those things where I remember us hooking up the first time, and whenever we hooked up, they'd turn into like weekends. And he was so, because I was a wannabe actor. It was so overwhelming to me how rich he was. I was like really, really like a little kid in his flat, because I just was like, it must have cost thousands to rent this flat that he was living in, which he didn't know because he wasn't paying for it, because his job was paying for it. That's how much they wanted him. He was doing that.
I kind of hate him now.
Yeah, he was kind of vile for that. But he, there's a love... God, I didn't think I'd reminisce this hard, but I remember him one time having he had a shark outfit at his house. And this is a good memory, actually, and then I fucked him in the shark outfit.
Ooh,
no, that's
some kinky shit.
That's not how it goes. Because he was the first man that I had a sexual relationship with, but also like a loving, playful exchange with. That was the first time that happened for me. I think that's why I remember it so fondly. I wouldn't have said that we were in love because I didn't ever get to know him that well, but like at one point I remember him finding it absolutely hilarious to come back from... He'd gone to get us food or something and came back dressed as a shark, which I look back now and I think this guy was amazing, and I was way too self-involved to realize how good he was.
So that's the shark costume story.
Yeah. That's it.
So how did you respond?
I didn't know how to enjoy it. I was uncomfortable because he was just being playful and nice and fun, and I think I wanted to go home because I couldn't relax. Yeah. So this is it's honest. You're getting the real deal here.
Aww. And so then what happened? Was it just a matter of you falling out of touch with each other?
Yeah, we did that routine a number of times. He'd go off to Switzerland, he'd come back, he'd shove me in a club. We did that one a few times. And then we did try to date a little bit, but I just wasn't able to. I find that really sad. I think it was still internalized homophobia stuff. And I was embarrassed because he was I was afraid that he was too different from what I thought I should be dating, that my friends wouldn't accept him, which is such an insane to think, but it was what I thought at the time.
Oh, so you wouldn't mix with him and your friend group at the same time?
No, my heterosexual friends mainly, if I'm honest.
Oh, so we're not talking about this group of friends that you went out dancing with. We're talking about a different
no, because
group.
they were like my party boys, but I had this other group of friends that were more longer term friends, and I definitely didn't deem him acceptable to them. But I definitely don't feel the same way now, but I did then.
And so would that have just happened to like anyone that you happened to be dating, or was that about him specifically?
I think it was about me. It was about me not being okay with the fact that I was like, hey, I'm fucking this guy. I think he's hot. and that means that I'm gay, and I'm okay with that, and I'm happy for people to see me being gay. I think it was all that stuff. I don't think I was really okay with that at that time. I still was quite laden with shame and embarrassment about those things.
And so it wasn't about you not being out. Like they knew you were gay, but you were just kind of downplaying those parts of yourself.
Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there, between telling people and then embodying your reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
In front of them, and I couldn't make that leap, and that is a shame, because I reckon if I look back and they knew that that's how I felt, they would have definitely been like, that's crazy. You have got to let yourself, because there wasn't a homophobe among them.
No, but it's like, it's the way you've been socialized, right?
Yeah.
Like you've grown up in this era where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're okay with the fact that you're gay, but just don't be gay, and then trying to figure out what that means.
Don't be visible. Don't be noticeably so. And you do. It's exactly that. And you then internalize that and manage it privately. That's what I feel like I did. I did that until I was about 27, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, it's something that you're not even conscious of as being totally fucked up, because at that time you don't have any other reference point.
And I actually think it's because I'm in my late 30s now that it's a thing that I have to be mindful doesn't sneak back in.
Ah, really?
Just in terms of what I describe as a kind of like it's like self-closeting. You're not gonna spend longer than about a minute with me until you realize my orientation. But I can definitely, just sort of make it. I think that's what I was referencing when I was talking about feeling like I'd surrounded myself too much with straight people. It's almost a version of that.
And so then how did it end with your man?
I think it might have ended with the "babe, why you so complicate" text message, looking back. I think that might have been. I don't think I followed up. I think I let it slip away.
Oh no.
I know. and I don't know whether we would have anything in common or even an attraction to one another now, but I definitely do think he's that one that I just wonder. I'm like, what if I'd just been able to let myself? Because I can't really remember what it even looks like right now. But I do have, consequently now, like a sort of, like an adult blonde or like a Scandinavian looking, that's in there. And I wonder whether he implanted that.
And so you don't remember his surname, like you can't find him anywhere?
I can't remember his surname at all, because I remember we had a lot of play around his name, because he said it with an accent, which I still don't say with to this day. But he said, because Yorgos doesn't feel like a German name to me. That feels like a Greek name. But he would say it with a German accent. And we had a lot of sort of like, I never said it right the whole time that we were dating, bless him.
Aww.
I don't know if were we ever dating? I think we were definitely dating, because I text my mum saying we were dating at some point.
I mean, that makes it official, right? Like if your mum knows.
Yeah. I did once look him up. I tried to, but I didn't find him. So maybe he'll be looking out for me, and will be the first reunited love story of your podcast.
Do you have any memories of Popstarz or clubbing from your own queer scene that you want to share? Or, more importantly, do you have any information about Yorgos so you can help me and Dougie track him down? Well, if you do, please get in touch. Go to lostspacesPodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space and tell me all about what you got up to. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the user handle LostSpacesPod. Find out more about Doug by visiting his website, thedougiestore.com, or following him on Twitter or Instagram. His handle is thedougiestore. But don't worry, all of this is in the show notes for the program. Lost Spaces is not only a podcast, but a concept record as well. I have been writing songs about queer venues and the people who used to live their lives there, and will be releasing songs over the next year. You can hear the first single, Well Groomed Boys, which is also playing underneath my talking right now on all streaming platforms. If you liked this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform of choice, or just told people who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen to. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost